When the judge says you're getting probation instead of jail time, it can feel like a relief, but probation in Arizona isn't freedom. It's a legal minefield. There are rules, conditions, and costs. Miss a payment, skip a class, get pulled over and don't report it, that could send you right back to court or even into custody. Hi, I'm Joel Chorny, a criminal defense attorney based in Tucson, Arizona. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through how probation really works in Arizona, what to expect, what can go wrong, and how to protect yourself or a loved one from a violation. This video is for informational purposes only. It's not legal advice, and watching it doesn't create an attorney-client relationship. I'm licensed in Arizona, and if you're in a different state, talk to a lawyer in your area. Probation is a sentence, although it is technically a suspension of sentence, handed down by the court that lets you serve your time outside of jail or prison, but still under the court's supervision. You're not free to do whatever you want. Probation means following a strict set of rules, checking in with a probation officer, and often dealing with drug tests, curfews, or mandatory programs. If you break those rules, even by accident, the court can revoke your probation, apply the suspended sentence, and send you to jail or prison. There are three main types of probation in Arizona. The first is intensive probation, known as IPS. Intensive probation, or like I said, IPS, is sometimes lovingly called in prison soon probation. It's used for the most serious offenses or people with a record that would make them be going to prison. The guiding principle for IPS is that it is reserved for people who would otherwise be getting sent to prison if there were not the option of IPS. So the design of IPS is quite strict. You'll be under close watch, frequent check-ins, random home visits, limited movement, and lots of restrictions. The next kind is supervised probation, and this is actually the more standard probation, particularly in felony cases. Regular check-ins with a probation officer plus whatever terms the court imposes, drug tests, counseling, or stay employed. I tell my clients that the trick is to be as boring to your probation officer or PO as possible. If the PO finds you boring, that means they will check in with you less and require less of you. Don't give them a reason to find you interesting. The third kind of probation is unsupervised probation. This is reserved for minor offenses or first-time convictions. You won't have to check in with an officer, but you still will need to follow all of the court's orders and conditions. And believe me, they are monitoring your compliance. Particularly in the lower courts, the ones that handle misdemeanors, it is common to resolve cases with a plea that places the defendant on unsupervised probation with some amount of jail time suspended. The way this works is that if the court gets wind of the fact that the defendant violated their conditions, it can unsuspend those days in jail. Unsupervised does not mean fake or unserious. If probation is an option available to the judge, and sometimes it isn't, but when it is, then it's also up to the judge to determine how long probation will be and what kind of probation. By statute, there are maximum terms of probation that courts can impose, but as for minimums, that is completely discretionary. In reality, though, often plea agreements will require some minimum amount of probation time, which, although not binding on the judge, at least in the jurisdictions I'm most familiar with, the judges tend to follow. Courthouses tend to develop a culture of what are typical lengths of probation. Here's a quick breakdown. For misdemeanors, it's usually between 1 and 3 years. For felonies, often it's between 2 and 7 years. But for special cases such as DUIs and some sex offenses, those can result in probation from 10 years up to even lifetime probation. Judges can shorten probation in some cases, but if restitution hasn't been paid, they can also extend it until it is. Probation isn't free. There are costs associated with it. If you're placed on probation, you should expect to pay a monthly supervision fee, which for supervised probation is usually $65 or more. You'll also be expected to pay court fines, restitution to victims, and the fees for counseling or drug testing services. If you can't afford it, don't ignore it. Talk to your lawyer or probation officer. You may be able to request a reduction, but failing to pay can trigger a violation. Let me emphasize, communication is crucial on probation. Not communicating tends to get people in way more trouble than the original violation. Probation conditions vary, but here's what you'll often see. Regular check-ins with a probation officer, random drug or alcohol testing, mandatory counseling or classes, community service, employment or school requirements, no travel without permission, no contact with any victims or co-defendants, curfews, especially on intensive probation, and no weapons, period. One missed appointment or small slip, even something you forgot, can turn into a serious problem. If you realize you've messed up, as I mentioned previously, it is best for you to call your PO right away and notify them. They will appreciate the communication. The worst thing you can do is just hope the PO never hears about it. Chances are they will, and they will hold it against you that you weren't the one to tell them. So what happens if you violate your probation? Well, here's the reality. For minor violations, you may get a warning or stricter supervision. For serious or repeated violations, those will trigger a hearing in front of the judge. And at that hearing, the court can extend your probation, add harsher conditions, or revoke it entirely and send you to jail or prison. Even if you think that the violation was small or unintentional, the consequences can snowball very quickly. The judge doesn't have to give you another chance, especially if your record shows a pattern. That's why it's critical to stay on top of your conditions, ask questions if something is unclear, and get legal help early if you think you've messed up. Because once you're facing a violation, you're not just defending your freedom, you're trying to hold on to your second chance. Probation can be a second chance, but it comes with pressure. The rules are strict, the system can be unforgiving, and sometimes people get tripped up by honest mistakes. If you or someone you care about is on probation and things aren't going smoothly, or if you're just trying to make sense of what the court ordered, my office is here to help. Reach out if you need guidance and don't wait until something goes wrong. I'm Joel Chorny. Remember, your rights matter, protect them, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next video.